Brief summary of Zero Waste Scotland. We're a programme sponsored by government and organisation really to deliver on the Scottish Government's zero waste ambitions and other sort of policy leads, policy asks by them. We kind of have four main themes. One, to obviously increase recycling, working with councils across Scotland and the private and community waste sector. We work with all businesses in Scotland about trying to get them to recycle more and prevent waste in the first place, but we also combine that with energy and water efficiency support. We're looking at market development, trying to make sure that we make more use of the materials we're pulling out of the waste stream. And now we're looking very much about the circular economy. So what's that shift? What's driving that shift to zero waste in Scotland? Well, it's actually who's driving it. This is Richard Lockhead, our Environment Minister. He's been the Cabinet Secretary for Environment since 2007, and it's really the government in Scotland that's been driving this agenda since then around the zero waste idea, trying to increase recycling levels and look at the opportunities for Scotland. So he's really been driving that in terms of a strategy since 2007. He's also been keen to push through regulations. So we now have regulations which are all about trying to ensure that the resources that we're circulating through our economy are valuable and are worth protecting in our economy. And these are about ensuring that not just councils are obligated to recycle, but all businesses in Scotland are now obligated to recycle key materials, including food waste. And the Minister himself announced a few weeks ago that he's looking at a food waste reduction target for Scotland. So really trying to ensure that there's a real drive and a direction of travel that everybody can get behind. The real focus point for us was to create a kind of resource grid, as we call it. We have a power grid in Scotland, we have a water grid, which are all aligned to ensure that our economy and our domestic houses, etc., have the resources they need. So this is really about trying to ensure that not our waste, but our resources are aligned sufficiently to increase the prosperity of our country. So where does the circular economy come into that? Well, one of the challenges with doing all that sort of waste recycling targets and regulations, I'm sure everybody in this room is familiar with, we really wanted to drive the opportunity around jobs. But we, as Scotland, are still, although we're collecting a lot more waste for recycling, we are still exporting that, 75% of the materials out with Scotland. So we're not really seeing the benefit in terms of employment opportunities. We're collecting more, but I think there's a kind of a number about, for every one job in collection, there's another 8 jobs further upstream in terms of the resale, remanufacturing, reprocessing of those materials. So we're kind of exporting jobs. There's also a degree of the current recycling system is very much dependent on public funding, public systems, which are obviously impacted on by funding, etc. So there's a number of things that possibly are not happening as well as we would like to. So the idea behind the circular economy is very, very attractive to us. And it's also about the numbers, because when we looked at waste management and recycling, we thought there was a potential impact on our economy of about 400 million equivalent Canadian dollars. But actually, when you look at the circular economy, you even just look at the whisky industry in Scotland and understand that if we start to think differently about the byproducts and the processes and the products of the whisky industry, there's a 600 million Canadian dollar impact. And if you start to think about other things in terms of fish production, beer production, remanufacturing, we're into the billions of equivalent Canadian dollars impact to our economy. So recycling is very good for our economy, but thinking about the circular economy is fantastically of a different magnitude if you really start to think about it. And it's about jobs. We estimate there's between 20,000 and 50,000 potential jobs, net jobs in Scotland by moving to a circular economy. And it's also good for the environment. We did a study early in the year, as if this is becoming too economic, we did a study early in the year to show that actually shifting Scotland to a more circular economy could reduce 11 million tonnes of CO2, which is over 20% of our current emissions.
1 minute.
So it's very much focusing on reuse. It's really trying to look at the value and the proposition where we can actually make the most in terms of remanufacturing, repair, so not just reuse, but reuse and repair, thinking about what that means in our economy, working with businesses who are already making that transition, who are already beginning to look at different business models. How can we work with them? How can we support them to think about that? Thinking about procurement, thinking about the public procurement. How can we change procurement so they're buying performance, they're buying services rather than products, and really create a demand for new services and new systems in our country. It's all about new relationships. very key about this. Somebody talked about it before. It's really about looking around your supply chain. It's up, down. It's not just about your customer, your immediate customer. You have to be collaborative around this. You have to start thinking about all those different relationships. But also for me, being a waste management professional for the last 20-odd years, it's about new people. It's about new relationships to have with academics, with economists, with our economic regeneration enterprise agencies. It's about looking at designers, working with designers. There's a whole new conversation going on, and that's what's really, to some extent, exciting about it, but can be quite a challenge. This is just my own personal relationship I now have with this guy. This is Bert van Son, who runs a company called Mud Jeans. It's actually in Holland. But Bert leases his jeans, so I'm actually wearing his trousers. So this is a new relationship I'm having. So for a few pounds a month, I borrow his trousers, basically. And after a year, he'll ask me if I want to trade them in for a better pair or a newer pair, and he'll repair them for me if something goes wrong. So this is about the new types of relationships that the circular economy can bring. It is about a change in mindset, but all I really want is a good pair of jeans. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. That's great.
Thank you. And hello, Canada. It's a wonderful event, and so many of you here today. I will talk about the situation in Finland, but first, Sitra actually is an innovation itself. We are around €1 billion fund in Finland, and as Vanessa told, it was a gift from Finnish Parliament to 50-year-old Finland. And we operate in many areas, among others, circular economy. Of course, when we started a year ago, we actually pushed very strong to this area. We had to look outside what is happening in circular economy. And actually, we came up with around 10 countries that are working very much in this field. Of course, in Europe, many of the colleagues here are the front runners, and we've been working with Netherlands, for example, in textiles. But we shouldn't forget Japan, which has been doing these things for ages. And of course, it seems that we have many things in common with Canada as well. We've been beaten in ice hockey many times. That's at least what we have in common, but we have in common also circular economy, which is great, of course. From our point, the starting point actually was that we knew that in May this year, the government will change. And we had to influence that they take this seriously and they actually start to invest in circular economy. And we provided information, and we were, discussing with them. And luckily, they actually took it seriously, because it's important that the government is backing. We have them, large shoulders to tell to the industry that we will support you in this very important area. Because it's actually jobs and growth, what everybody wants. And that's what circular economy is about. Then we actually needed to convince the industry. And how do you do it? It's not that you talk about just jobs and growth. You actually have to have a credible partner to communicate the message. And we chose McKinsey, since they are credible in the CEO level. And they did a great job for us. They mapped the potential in Finland, which is sizable, 2 to 3 billion euro annually by 2030. And we concentrated in those areas that are important for Finland, like forest, which is of course important for you as well, and especially the high value-added products in those areas. And I feel sincerely that circular economy will be an investment asset class in the future, so that actually you are looking for this kind of profitable businesses. And that's the hard work we have to do next. So what next? We have to walk the talk in Finland. And we actually now are discussing with our ministries, especially the Ministry of Employment and Economy and the Environment, so that we have a common goal in circular economy. Then we actually took textiles as an example. And why textiles? It's actually because everybody has an opinion about fashion and textiles. And it has been great because we have been in media a lot of times, and it's always about textiles. It's not about business-to-business, machines. That's not very sexy for the media. Then we took a nutrient circulation as an example, because there we can actually cover the whole value chain, food chain in Finland. And that's a great example that we have to move forward. And cities are very important for us because they are the platform for innovation. They have the procurement processes. They can actually demonstrate with companies what you can really do in that area. And the last area is the technology industry. Finnish exports are high value-added products, and that's where the business is. That's where the challenges in business models are, and that's why we are focusing in that area. We are not focusing in waste. That is not our business. We are in the upstream, try to kind of prevent the waste, but actually doing good business, and that's what we are aiming for. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hello, my name is Klaske Kruk and I work for Circle Economy, and I came all the way from Amsterdam for you, just to tell this story. We are a social enterprise, and many companies are a member of us, and what we do is we advise companies how to implement circular economy solutions into their daily business. And we are a very tiny little country in the world with very, very tall people. And we had a big idea. Next year, in 2016, we will be the chairman of the European Commission as the Netherlands. And we thought that all the members of Circle Economy could be a great showcase for the rest of the world, at least for Europe, to showcase what they do already in circular economy in their own businesses in daily life, and what they learn from that. So this is what we do. We created the Netherlands Circular Hotspot, and that will kick off in 2016, delivering a documentary and a vision document like, what do you do in circular economy if you're a business? One of the companies that is a member of us is Fairphone. This is a company, it's a very tiny one, a startup that builds cell phones out of modules. So that means that when one of your elements in your phone is broken, you can replace it in order just to throw it away, what we do normally. And they stay owner of your cell phone and they lease it to you. But there's another topic I'd love to talk about today. Because not only businesses come to us and ask us, can you help us finding circular economy solutions for our company? No, these days cities are really interested in the topic. And why is that? Well, it's the first time in history that more than half of the people live in cities, and that number will go up very quickly in the upcoming years. So cities are worried about, can I secure the quality of life in cities? I don't want air pollution, I don't want soil pollution, I want clean water. And I want jobs and enough food, quality food for my citizens. So what do I do? And it's incredible what kind of cities come to us and ask us, can you help us? We started in Amsterdam, but we are already starting in Glasgow next month. And one of my colleagues is in Taiwan, Brazil, South Africa. And all those cities come to us with two questions. The first question is, where do I start? And the second question is, what can I do? So this is what we do. We look at the city and really look where the greatest impact could be, economically seen and ecologically seen. And pointing out that sector and really putting a vision for a circular sector in that city into place. This is how your sector could look like in the future if you want to make it circular. And then we come up with concrete projects that you enable you just to come up to that circular vision. So up here, I have an example of the construction sector, and this is a marketplace of construction waste, so you can resell your stuff. That's one of a very simple solution. And we calculate for the cities really like, what kind of impact does such a product have in your city? So how much jobs will that create? How much value will that create? How much will your emission go down? And how much materials do you save? And then I would love to close with a very exciting project we're starting up now. Because there's one other question many cities have, and that is, how can I make such a big, difficult concept, a circular economy, tangible? And how can I measure it? So we developed the city dashboard. And it really shows with clocks how circular your city is and where you can improve. And what a nice thing is that you can compare cities with each other. So cities can see who is performing better on which clocks, and you can click on them and find out how they got there, what kind of best practice did they have, so you can apply it to your own city. And this might seem a very simple project, but imagine if we apply this to many, many cities, we can really accelerate circular cities and have a massive impact.
Thank you. Let's go.